Welcome back to Under Oath. Two attorneys arguing. You do not look like Craig Lynd.
I'm not.
This is the assistant to the assistant of the director of marketing. Morgan, what you don't know about law would fill the Grand Canyon, wouldn't it?
Yes, and then some.
You do not have the superior skills that Craig Lynd has to analyze very difficult legal functions.
No.
But you have questions.
I do.
You brought them with you.
I did.
I have a feeling that there was some chat GPT involved in these questions, but I will answer them anyway. And I'll answer them off the cuff, just like we were at a party and you looked over at me and goes, "Hey, Jeff, you're a lawyer, right?"
What is the easiest way to get out of jury duty?
Everyone's a little bit racist. No, no, it's a good question. First off, for legal purposes, jury duty is a responsibility. You have to show up. It is a duty. It's part of our system, and it's absolutely something you should do. I can tell you the reason why I have booted people off my jury. Racism is always a good thing. Racism always works. Some guy goes, I don't know those people. Okay, he's got to go. And judges will normally kick you off if your biases are too great. For example, if you get up, it's a criminal case, and you said, "I hate cops." Okay. Now, they can try to fix you. And I've had judges try to fix jurors in the past. Depending on what part of the country you're on, judges will try even harder. Because I actually had somebody on a jury of mine who was in the same, their kids were in Little League together of the opposing counsel. "Oh, yeah, we go over their house all the time." Your Honor, they're friends. Well, can you be unbiased? It's not about can you be unbiased. There's a direct bias built in that you can't overcome. But depending on what city or judge you're in front of, it can be overcome. So normally, if your prejudices are so outweigh your ability to be unbiased, you don't have to be on that jury.
What do you do if you get pulled over?
Pulled over?
Mm-hmm.
You shut up. That's what you do. You don't give the cop any lip, or the police officer, the detective, whoever's pulling you over. We see a lot of videos now where they're holding these little pamphlets up to the window, where everyone's been taught how to handle things. It's real show dignity, show respect. How can I help you, officer? License and registration. Here's my license and registration. You provide them. People are going to ask questions. Well, what about if they ask you questions you don't want to answer? Well, the more respectful you are to the police officer, the less likely things will go wrong. Now, you could be right later on. For example, let's say the officer did not have probable cause to search the car just because you told the officer, "I don't like pigs," or something like that. My advice is don't do that. I get pulled over. I've never said to the officer, "I'm a lawyer, I know my rights." I said, "Officer, how can I help you?"
What are some of the biggest causes of car accidents?
About 20 years ago, I would have told you it was speeding. I would have said majority of it is people running late. They have to get somewhere too quickly. They're just flying down the road. They don't care. It's now non-attention. It's the cell phones. The cell phones cause more accidents than anything else because what happens is now we're in the car and we need to occupy our minds more than just being on the road. That's why, for example, I ride a motorcycle. I can't hold my phone in my hand, so I'm fully aware of what everybody's doing. And since I started riding about 10 years ago, I am fully aware of everyone on the road and what they're not doing. And what they're not doing is driving. They're behind the wheel, but they're not driving. They're doing anything but what they're supposed to be doing. When you're in the car and there's nothing else going on, you can see everything. When you're on a motorcycle and you have nothing going on, you can see everything. When you're sitting there with your phone wondering, oh, I got a text. Oh, I got an email. What's going on with my Facebook has probably killed more people than cancer in this country nowadays.
Should I record the police at a traffic stop, and does it help my case?
Big thing. Do not hold that camera up when that officer comes to your window. First off, he doesn't know it's a phone to begin with. And if you have something up in your hand, these guys, it's about their safety first. So God forbid they think it's a gun or something else like that. You might get shot. Second issue is, why aggravate a police officer? You're holding the phone up like some idiot. And I have never seen anybody holding the phone up like this who doesn't look like an absolute a-hole. You basically, if you're holding your phone up, you look like an a-hole. You look like you're trying to cause a problem. Okay? Now, a lot of phones are mounted. The first thing I might do is I might click audio, or I might have it on me, and it'll pick up the audio from the officer. If the officer asks you, he goes, "Is that recording?" You go, "It's always recording." Yes. And if he goes, "Turn it off." No, I've been advised for legal base that I have to keep it on. Trust me, that officer will not like it, but he also most likely will not go nuts because it's not on him. Now, if he says you don't have a right to have it on, this officer is already doing bad stuff. So yes, keep it on. Do not point it towards the officer. Do not do anything to aggravate the officer. But yes, have it on. And yes, you could use it later.
Are police officers allowed to lie?
I hate that question because I know the result of it. We should not rely on police officers to deceive us into admitting crimes. And that's why it's allowed. Because the court systems, our government, the U.S. Constitution, the Supreme Court, everyone has agreed that police officers are allowed to lie to you because it's for the greater good of somebody admitting to a crime later on or admitting to a crime they committed. No, it's absolutely wrong. The fact is, this is the worst part of our legal system because it makes people not trust the police. It also makes police officers less trustworthy. Why? If there's a part of my life where somebody says, "Hey, Jeff, we expect you to lie here. We expect you to do these things, and it's absolutely fine because it's for the greater good." Anytime we put a basic principle to the side over the greater good, we're creating bad things. So an officer is allowed to lie to a suspect to get them to admit something. And then they say to themselves on the stand, "Well, I know the guy did it, so I'm going to lie on the stand too because it's for the greater good." Once you get comfortable lying, you get comfortable lying everywhere. And our legal system, law enforcement, state attorneys, these are people who should not be comfortable lying because it gets worse over time. So yes, police officers are allowed to lie to you, but they really shouldn't because it affects everything they do. And it affects their personal lives too. You ask an officer whose job it is to lie to people, they'll say to you, "Well, it started to filter into my other life too." Because once it's okay to lie to one person, it becomes okay to lie to everybody.
Should people testify in their own defense?
Yes and no. I know that sounds wishy-washy. The fact is this, if you are such a bad guy that all your past is going to come up and make them not forgive anything you did, even if you were innocent in this case, don't testify. Let's say they put no case forward against you. Don't testify. But here's the thing. I've been on a jury. I've tried way too many cases. Juries want to hear from you. They want to hear you say the words, that, especially in a criminal case. "I didn't do it. I didn't commit this crime." Because if they don't, then they're thinking to themselves, "Oh, he has something to hide." Even though they've been instructed not to hold it against it, they will. They'll hold it against them every time. And yes, they might find you not guilty because the evidence wasn't great. But they really want to hear these words. "I didn't do it." Now, Morgan, attorneys like me who get the opportunity to talk to people a lot, sometimes we forget it's not about us. We think, "Oh, we know everything. We have the experience. We've done this for so long that there's nothing we can learn." But the fact is this, I didn't grow up the way you did. I didn't have cell phones when I was a kid. If I needed to find somebody, I had to drive around, literally drive around. At night, where are my friends? I don't know. Let me drive around. I mean, and we didn't have maps on our phones. So we guessed where people might be, and we had to remember how we got to all those different locations. And we'd have to get out of the car, walk into the place, realize they weren't there, get back into the car, and drive. Now, the worst part about it is sometimes they were driving to the same place. They just get there before us. Now, knowing that, you grew up in a world where billboards were always there. Since day one, you've looked up and seen these Morgan billboards or Dan Newland or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What was your feeling about attorneys since day one? Did you have a good or bad feeling?
Oversaturated. I
Too
think
much.
it was just something that I saw all the time that I stopped acknowledging because it was so constant.
This is your first job out of college. you see the ad for marketing assistant or something. I don't even remember the ad. It's for a law firm. You come in here and you're going, you tell your parents, I'm looking, I'm going to apply at this law firm.
Yep.
You come in here to this zoo and where you're like, this is not what I expected.
Definitely. Well, I was expecting suits and high heels and nobody talks to each other. So I was definitely caught off guard.
What was the biggest surprise about the practice of law that you didn't know before?
I was surprised by how much paperwork there is. I was expecting to see everybody going to court every day. And that has not happened as often as I was thinking from my TV shows.
See, that's what it is. It's TV. TV, they never show anybody doing anything.
No.
They're just standing in court. No. Everyone, I caught him. I did this. They never show the work.
Nope.
Nobody ever goes, God, it took me like 3 months to write this motion. And then we had to file it. And then the judge's office. And they don't realize it's not sexy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not cool. A lot of documents are being sent.
Yes.
And if you don't send the right document, you get in trouble for it.
Mm.
Stupid. That's what law school is. A couple weeks ago, I brought up the term of white knighting, and I used you an example of that. I said we were doing an event for special needs, and there was a young man who was on the spectrum, and he didn't understand boundaries, and he was floating over to you every 10 seconds. And I watched this happen for about 20 minutes, and you had the camera running, and you're walking around, and I wasn't quite sure what I should do at the time. How can somebody who was raised like I was to try to step in, try to be helpful? Is there a situation where that's okay? I mean, I don't have a clue how to handle something like that. And I was just raised differently.
I think for me, my preference in any kind of situation like that is just communication. So if you're coming up to me and you can just state what you're noticing, hey, how are you? Are you good? And if I say, yeah, I'm good, then let that be that. And if it's kind of like, oh, I don't know, I might need a little bit of help, just ease into it and kind of diffuse instead of coming in too hot where then it turns into a whole situation of yelling and aggression.
Stay away from her.
Exactly. Then it's like, well, now I feel like it's worse than it needed to be. But I think everybody has their own preference in how they like those situations to be handled. So it's hard to say.
Well, I miss Craig, but patient zero is at home, being the super spreader in his own house. We'll be back in a few.